with. I couldn't tell if it was filming or not. I just wanted to check back in. I really miss making videos for my channel, and it's definitely something that I'm going to get back into now. I am driving, I'm commuting to go get some inventory. What happened in a nutshell is that back in January, business was going really good. I was selling consistently $10,000 a month on eBay for the 3 months prior, so my 90-day totals were in the 30,000 range. And I was progressing and getting the business built back up. I had taken some time off the channel just to, after COVID, get my business back up where I had freedom to go get all the inventory I needed. And then, it was only going to be a few months, and then I was going to make videos again. But then my mom, who was living in Texas with her husband passed away suddenly. And so on January 17th, I left and went up there, and I was back and forth to my home in Wyoming for almost 8 months. My 2 brothers live overseas, and with COVID especially, Australia and China are 2 of the strictest countries in the world when it came to COVID and being able to fly back and forth. And they have careers over there that they have established, and so they couldn't just come home and take a chance that they wouldn't be able to get back into their jobs. And normally having my brothers overseas is not a big deal because we fly back and forth whenever we can. They come home at least once or twice a year normally, and we go whenever we can. And then they stay in great touch with my parents, via Zoom and all of those things, WhatsApp. So it really doesn't affect our life that much. But during this period of time, because my brothers were unavailable, I am literally my mom's only relative who's able to help my family, my husband and I and my children. So my son came with me one time also, and we helped my mom liquidate a lot of things. When we first went out there, we were just going for support, and then I was going to go back and forth and stay. But because of her situation with her husband dying and no family really that she can see that often out there, she wanted to relocate and live closer to where I live and my kids live. So that kind of surprised us that she was willing to move so quickly. And I didn't want to leave her out there by herself, and I knew that I would basically be living in Texas off and on until we just got it done. So I think, we all grieve in different ways, and for her, her husband had some health issues for quite a while. So she decided, so I'm not saying that it was an easy situation for her at all, but I feel like it wasn't completely unexpected. And so she was in the mode to start cleaning and getting rid of things much sooner than maybe someone who loses their spouse might normally. And it kept her busy, and it was what she wanted to do. So we got to work, but the entire process of moving her from Texas to Wyoming took about 8 months because she had a house to sell, she had decisions to make, and it was unexpected enough when he died that some of the paperwork wasn't in the right order as far as being able to sell the house. It was in her name, but you have to go through probate sometimes and take someone's name off of things. And if you've ever lost a loved one who actually owned property and all of that, you'll understand. And it's just not something that can be done quickly. So she was busy taking care of all that. That's something that I really couldn't help with. She had to go get the lawyer and do all of that herself. And so meanwhile, I started cleaning, packing, trying to find a moving company and all of that. And I'm surprised it took that long. Part of it also is my mom is very healthy, and she still works full-time. She is a nursing professor, and so she had to wait until her job ended in May. And then she now lives in Wyoming near me, and she works full-time again. It's just what she likes to do, and she's 74 years old. So I'm really proud of her for getting all of this done this year. But the truth is, it took a toll on my business because of COVID, I want to say, more than anything. They had some church friends and they had neighbors who they had relationships with, but they had only lived in this part of Texas for 8 years, and that's a long time, and they had tried to make relationships and things, but Bill, my mom's husband, who passed away, he had some challenges and some health issues, so he wasn't someone who went out and about to a lot of parties or a lot of events and got to know people. So when I say that my mom was kind of alone out there, she had some co-workers from her job, and they did have some contacts with a church, but she really didn't have enough people in her life out there to just kind of leave her there months at a time, especially after she had lost someone. And so I would go out for a week at a time, sometimes 2 weeks, and that is a 2-day drive no matter what you do. I wanted to fly, but the flights were not dependable, and my mom drives in town, but she doesn't drive out of town on the interstate a lot, and so she couldn't really come get me. And so when we added up rental car prices, which really have gone through the roof since COVID, long story short, it was just cheaper and easier just to drive. And so I did that, and then that way I could haul my work with me. So sometimes I would stop at the Denver bins, load up a bunch of inventory, and then take it to Texas. I did go to the Austin bins when I was there, and I was able to walk right in and find enough to get by. And thankfully I had been there to visit before COVID quite a bit, and I knew some decent thrifts. So I did the best that I could with working 3 weeks on and a week or two off. 3 weeks on, a week or two off. But my business just wasn't strong enough, and so I went from $10,000 a month consistently with lots of time to have time with family. Most weekends I had scheduled listings, and I had weekends off. Most of the time I wasn't stressed. You know, there's always times when you have slow sales and you have to work a little harder, but most of the time my business was pretty chill, and I had plenty of money, you know, for what my daily or my monthly budget is. But when this happened, January was fine because I had a lot of inventory. I had about 1,500 items in stock, and I edited them, and on the weeks I was home, I, you know, got as much listing done as I could, and I was just really in work mode. And but no matter what I did, my, you know, long story short, my sales dropped to as low as $6,000 for the month on several months, and I was working like crazy. It wasn't like I just took off. And when I was at my mom's, I set up shop. We cleaned a room that had been Bill's office, and I set up shop in there, and I shipped from Texas. I did everything that I knew how, but just that drive time back and forth, 2 days up, 2 days back, just my cash flow, you know, dried up at times, and it was really hard to get that back up. But of course I have no regrets. You do what you need to do, and I did. My mom, thankfully, is in a very, very good financial position, so she paid for, sorry, it's just getting so bright. She paid for all of my expenses going back and forth, and, you know, she understood the commitment to do that. But on the other hand, I think she thought, because she saw me working at her house, I don't think she quite realized the financial toll that it took, because I did all I could physically. I worked out twice as much during those 8 months to try to be able to get up at 4 in the morning. I went to Planet Fitness when I was at her house. I walked her dogs 3 miles a day, so I was doing 5 to 7 miles a day sometimes, just trying to keep her dogs exercised and mentally okay, because they had lost someone too, and they really were his dogs in many ways. He spent more time with them, so I was trying to do all of that. I was doing everything physically and mentally that I knew to be able to take on the extra workload and the extra stress of going back and forth, and it just didn't happen. My sales dropped. It was a real slow drop, but anyway, as of July, when we moved her, finally, I had 800 listings. I had gone from 1,400 consistent listings at all times down